Okay. Howdy-ho, folks. It is the final day of my cottage core challenge to myself that nobody asked for. And we are going to be painting on the cookies that we baked in our last video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just click on over to the last video where I discuss what cottage core is and challenge myself to it for essentially like 5 days. And this is the final part. I'm going to paint watercolor on top of my cookies. Now, I'm not using actual watercolor paint. All you need in order to paint on your cookies is some icing color or just gel food coloring in general. And you're gonna mix that with a dollop, like literally the smallest amount of vodka in order to make it more paint-like. And the vodka, the alcohol, once it evaporates, it makes it more concentrated and it's able to sit on top of the icing, versus water will make the icing sugar kind of sink in and break down the icing, the royal icing that's already on top. So don't try to use water only. And then I have a little glass of water to help clean out my brush when I'm done. And I might get a napkin to help get rid of excess color. But the focus of today's discussion around cottagecore is essentially, why is cottagecore popular right now? I think a part of me feels that the pandemic is directly related to this. And there's actually a new article out by Vox, and they discuss how there is a direct correlation between when there are spikes of COVID and when there are spikes of cottagecore, and the two are directly related, in where every time there's a spike of COVID cases, there is a spike of cottagecore content. And at its root, I find this to just be a symbol of the escapism that is being begged for by a lot of teens and young adults during all of this. And do I blame them? Absolutely. I think I need more vodka, actually. Do I blame them? Absolutely not, because I, for one, am one of them. And I do find, I'm just going to add, so fun fact, I literally spilled half of this bottle of vodka all over my floor because I got overexcited. And, okay, I don't know why I did this in my left hand. I suck at doing things with my left hand. Okay. And pour. Haha! We've done it. By George, we've done it. Okay, anyway, as I was saying, spilled half of this all over the floor, got overexcited, and I'm just a klutz, and so I'm very sad about this. But back to cottagecore. There's a Vox article out on this, in where they discuss the rise of cottagecore and why it's up, and they basically say the same thing, in where this culture has been on the rise because it's a huge form of escapism and a huge kind of way for people to feel less caged in a lot of ways, where your lifestyle starts to match your external surroundings. And honestly, because we can't go anywhere, it makes sense why the uptick is afoot. And I would say that this kind of applies to all forms of aesthetic, not just cottagecore. But I think what's special about cottagecore is that cottagecore revolves around the home, the hearth. It revolves around being outdoors in solitude. Think Emerson, that Pond book. I can't think of what it's called. I think it's, I'm gonna die if it's actually called like The Pond. But think along the lines of that. Solitude, one with nature, really staying close to home, baking, knitting, all of those old-timey pastoral things. I also want to add that I think that it's not just here for COVID. I think that this generation, meaning millennial, Generation Z, there is a kind of despondency, resignation in the fact that the idea of the American dream that we were taught to have is dead, doesn't exist. And I think it's a lot for so many of us to kind of, I don't know, accept, if you will. And maybe I'm speaking my own personal bias belief, but there's a reason why like Animal Crossing is huge. You're able to accumulate all of this debt in order to buy the home you want, and you're able to pay it off in like a week, right? Like, there is a reason why there's these kind of idealistic, romantic games and entertainment forms have been just heavily consumed as of late, is because of this death of the American dream. And I don't mean to sound melodramatic, but I just believe it to be true. Prove me wrong. Show me I can own a home. Because I don't think I can. Okay, actually, I'm going to go get a napkin. I'll be right back. Alright, so honestly, I'm just going to keep trying to paint these. I am terrified of messing this up, but I want to give you my final thoughts on cottagecore and this whole shebang, this whole culture. So I personally don't find anything wrong with escapism. I think it can be dangerous when we don't recognize the romanticization of the hard life, the colonialism aspects, and just not acknowledging when there needs to be more diversity in things, like I touched upon in my first video. And so I am all for you doing what makes you happy for the most part, especially something as like slightly harmless as dressing in frilly day dresses, and just doing things in the home and learning more self-sustaining skills like growing your own plants and things like that. But we also have to take into account a lot of the privilege that comes with that, especially if you are looking to buy your own home or land and things of that nature. And just always double check your motivations in things and understand fully what you are taking part in before you take part in it, and not just see it as its own superficial level of things, i.e., yeah, you just dress up in frilly dresses and you skip around fields. Like, there's more history behind it and context. And I think it's irresponsible to engage in a culture and not understand its origin and the problematic layers within it. But I also think there's no harm in liking what you like and enjoying it and using your creativity to explore different realms of it. And once again, like I mentioned before in my other video, just using that privilege that you do have within the world you want to be involved in to speak up for the injustices that are currently going on today. And that's just how I feel on it. Now, incorporating it in a city life is definitely something a little bit more challenging. Obviously, there are things you can do, like having a picnic in your own home, having a picnic at a park, instead of going to a wild field and things of that nature. But I do think that there are parts of cottagecore that should be incorporated into your life, like living slowly, like taking time to give care to your home and to the food that you're cooking and what you're baking, and finding joy in the little things, which I think is a key component of cottagecore, is being reminded once again of the little slow moments in life that I think technology has really taken a big chunk out of. And I just love that we're able to enjoy these things and it's no longer seen as odd or weird or just crazy. I can do these things, dress how I want to dress, and it's just kind of accepted nowadays. And I think that should be the case for almost any aesthetic, if you will, and interest or hobby. But it's so great that things that are meant to be self-sustaining and life skills that we've definitely lost along the way are being picked up again. And it just goes to show that there are things from the past that are worth bringing back and worth taking, but it's being cognizant of what is worth bringing and what is worth being left behind. That is the key point. And that is my little ramble on cottagecore. So I'm going to continue painting these, and I'll show you guys what they look like when I'm done. Alright, it is much later now and my cookies are done. I'll do a close-up here. I am not an artist. If you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, I am equivalent to Sokka in my art skills. But I am happy with my first one that I did. All in all, this was fun. I enjoyed kind of letting myself just do whatever I wanted with the cookies. And yeah, it was good. And I highly suggest you guys giving this recipe a try, and just if you're ever bored one day, just painting on your cookies, because it's a good way to pass the time, especially on a rainy day. I don't know if you can hear, but it's been pouring. Actually, it's been pouring for like the last month in Korea, so I've been trying to find ways to keep busy indoors, and this is now a new thing because the cookies were so easy to make, the icing was super easy to make, and I have a whole bunch of leftover color gel, so why the heck not? Alright, well, I'm going to sign off here. Thank you guys for sticking with this whole little cottagecore experiment. I do have a few more ideas in terms of cottagecore videos, so stay tuned for those. But until then, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.